Recording. Hello, I'm Sean Sullivan. I'm your moderator today. Welcome to the August 9th version of the SIG CLI bi-weekly meeting. Why don't we get directly into the announcements? The only announcement that we have is, at least from my end, is that we have within about a week, slightly less than a week, we're going to be releasing 128. And so the code will be unfrozen shortly. If you have PRs that are out, you may want to ping some reviewers to take advantage of the unfreeze that's scheduled to happen next Tuesday, August 15th. Does anybody else have any other announcements? Oh, sorry, the steering election is, I saw that's starting up. And there have been, I've seen already today, several people have been nominated for the upcoming steering committee election. Don't forget to vote. You will be on a big list if you are eligible to vote.
Yes,
and
we have.
I will go ahead,
sorry,
Eddie.
We have 4 seats that are going to be opening up. Christoph, Stephen Augustus, Carlos, and Tim Pepper are all their terms up. Going to be nominating Mache, so fingers crossed he accepts and does well. We'll see. And yeah, not to sway anyone's votes there.
Nice.
Sorry, what is steering election? It's like a board or something?
Yeah, you could think of it as like the governing board for Kubernetes. There are 7 seats available for a 2-year term.
And it sounds like 4 of those are going to be contested or elected this coming up election. Is that correct, Eddie?
Yes.
Great.
Excellent. So do we have any other announcements from anyone before we continue? So are there any sub-project or KEP updates? If not, we could move on to the first item, which I put on the agenda, which is, and it requires some context, it is a proposal to add another command. And we would like to especially get the tech leads feedback on this. Let me first start by saying I believe with server-side apply, we are kind of at a dead end in the fact that we cannot safely move server-side apply to being the default because of legacy concerns. And we've invested a significant amount of effort into server-side apply. And yet I think that the statistics I've seen is that there's a very, very small percentage of kubectl use, which is server-side apply. It's almost, even though we've had server-side apply around for years and years, client-side apply still dominates. And in order to get the most out of our investment into server-side apply, we're brainstorming ideas in order to move the ball forward on how we can make server-side apply easier within kube control. So just as a quick update for those who need a little bit more context on this, server-side apply was created in order to allow multiple agents to apply the same object relatively safely. And so client-side apply, we calculate the patch for applying on the client, whereas in server-side apply, we calculate the patch. We send the entire object and let the server calculate the patch. And we recognize this as being, or we believe this is a far superior method of actuation And we've put significant amount of effort, as I've mentioned, into the server in order to be able to do this. We've integrated it into kube control apply as a flag, and it is not being used, not very much. So the proposal is, what if we create a new command, kubectl actuate, that is kubectl apply, server-side apply as default, with integrated migration from client-side apply, the metadata being stored, the last applied annotation would be moved into the managed fields, which is the way that server-side apply does it, as well as we have brand new pruning that that Justin and Katrina have spearheaded. And so we could, if we agree, create a new command, which is a best-in-class apply or actuation, incorporating all that we've learned over the years and allowing it to be used basically as opt-in without being shackled by the legacy concerns. So that's my initial pitch. I'd love to hear. Actually, what I'd first, if Antoine doesn't mind, maybe we can have you describe, since Antoine had a lot to do in the work for server-side apply, describing kind of why we're roadblocked with the current apply.
Yeah, so two things. I don't think we're roadblocks specifically. And second of all, well, at least maybe in kubectl, but I don't think kubectl is necessarily the most relevant part of server-side apply. We have controllers and we have appliers, Argo, CD, etc., that are already using server-side apply.
Okay.
So it's not like server-side apply is a wasted effort.
Yeah, I think maybe
for kubectl, it's not that critical. I think we initially did it for kubectl, or like with kubectl in mind, but eventually we realized that it's not necessarily where it's the easiest path to entry, especially because so some things are different between client-side apply and server-side apply. There's the conflicts. Some things can't be applied that used to work for client-side apply. Like lists, associative lists are a lot more enforced than they are with client-side apply. And so there are cases where the behavior is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm personally at this point very uncomfortable changing the behavior of kubectl apply for anyone.
So that's why you so you do agree that in order to move forward, we don't want to change.
We can't change the default.
The default kubectl apply.
There are millions of people using kubectl apply in the world that do not talk to the community at all, that don't know what's going on, what's happening with the work we're doing. And what's that he's saying? And because of that, I think if we change it, it's just going to break everyone for no reason. And I don't think that's the good experience we wish for people using kubectl.
So if there were a new command that would obviously be an opt-in, it would be somebody who actually is saying, I want to use server-side apply with this new command.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like if there's a new command and we change the doc throughout to use that new command, people are slowly going to migrate to it because they'll be like, oh, apply is not the new thing. The new thing is whatever name we come up with. And then, but at least people will make a conscious decision about that. And they can have like a migration plan that suits their company's policies and whatnot. And if they have a bug, they know what they're looking for. They're not just like, my apply script doesn't work anymore. So I think that's a better way forward. Yeah. It's going to be a less invasive for people for sure.
Okay, so I think that I've talked enough. I'm curious. There's already one hand. Leonid has his hand up. Eddie does as well. Lena, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thanks. I have a question. To me, it is still like unclear your concerns about switching the default behavior, like to the extent of my understanding, for most of the people, it will be transparent. So can you bring examples that demonstrate exactly the concerning points, the problematic points that you feel can happen if you switch it?
That's an excellent question, and I'll add to when I've done a little bit more research, I'm going to add to the notes on specific examples. But as Antoine was saying, there are the behavior is different enough that if we switched it without, even if we told the community that we were going to switch the behavior, the behavior would be different enough that it would end up breaking existing applies and would be extremely disruptive, and basically break people. I'll let, I think Antoine actually.
No, I think the main thing is the conflicts, right? We don't have conflicts with apply. If you change a value, it changes the value. With server-side apply, you have to acknowledge that you want to change the value if it's been changed by someone else. And so scripts that people may have written in like random places in the world are going to break, and I don't think that's great.
So basically,
Go ahead.
if I understand you correctly, you say that your concern is that instead of override behavior that happens mostly today when people use apply as it is today client side, they will get a merge behavior, and it will break the existing like functionality or workflows they use. Is it right?
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
described?
And if there's a conflict now, you actually have to put an extra flag to override a field. So if you have your client side script, which is applying, and now you have, instead of just overriding, which is what's happening now for client side apply, it actually would not apply that. And it would tell you that you have to add an extra flag of forcing the conflicts, minus force conflicts. So that sounds like that's the biggest behavioral change, which is, it would end up breaking a lot of people.
Okay, thank you.
And there are other changes, like I was mentioning the associative list, the environment variables in a pod, for example, can be duplicated with client-side apply, but they can't be duplicated with server-side apply. So if someone has somewhere, and I'm sure someone does, has a deployment with duplicated environment variables, they can client-side apply that. But if we switch the behavior, that's not going to work for them anymore. And so we're basically like breaking it for them.
Yeah.
At least if we change the command and we're like, this is now using server-side apply, and the people are like, okay, I actively type a different command, I see it fail, they know exactly what happened.
Yep.
If we change the command and they don't even know
underneath
it
underneath
they're
the
gonna be like,
covers.
why is this version of kubectl broken?
Right. So Eddie, would you like to go? Be really interested in hearing your feedback on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we've been on for a while, right? Honestly, I would love for you to pitch Jordan on changing the default and just film his reaction. I mean, he would absolutely never allow this to happen, right? Like, I agree. Like, this would break a huge chunk of the internet and modern cloud native world as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, we could also have fun and look at the reaction of the internet.
And yeah, roll this out and see and see what the reaction is. Yeah.
I have a couple thoughts. So the first thing, I think it would be really helpful for y'all to have some reproduction examples to help people understand exactly what we would break. So just like set the stage with like a simple thing and just be like, if we switch the default, like you're expecting this behavior and then this will happen. So I think that will be super useful in like making this decision and educating everyone. The other thing I was going to say was, if a new command, it doesn't really matter whether we do a new command or we change all of the behavior under a new flag or something to apply. I think it probably makes sense to like be like, hey, the new thing is actuate. Just everyone move to that. You don't have to remember flags. And like, this is the now best practice for doing an apply. Like, I think that makes sense too. But I'd probably be in favor of a new command. Yeah, I totally see the block there. Like, there's no way we'd be able to just change the default. Like, so yeah, I think I appreciate all your work on this. I know you all have been trucking down the server-side apply and the change set route for such a long time. And yeah, I'd love to get it into the hands of people so we can stop giving our regular public service announcement during our KubeCon updates.
Yeah, I think that this is the best way to move the ball forward. So I think that, we're going to have 99% of the people using kube control doing client-side apply 5 years from now, unless we try to move the ball forward. And I think that this may be a useful method that kind of sidesteps the legacy issues by making it a new command that people are opting into.
Yeah, and it's not like you're jumping to, oh, let's create a new command as the first step here, right? Like, there has been a long road to get here. So,
I mean, I suggested creating a new command 5 years ago.
originally, right? Yeah, yeah, but I'd rather have spent that 5 years like getting the exact thing we want right, so we can roll it out all together.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Justin mentions that we could create a whole new binary instead of kube control.
I think that should be our worst option. That is but I like the idea that's being proposed. But yes, I was mostly making a joke about the correct pronunciation of the binary.
So as I mentioned, I think that we can actually put several bits of functionality that we know are best practice. We've just recently, as I mentioned, with Justin and Katrina, moved into the better pruning, and so we could make that as the default as well, and say, hey, this is our after years of working with kube control, especially if it's greenfield, you're just starting now. This is the apply that you should be using. And this is the reason why.
We could also look at things holistically. Like, I think apply is definitely spreading across many commands. And there's like the save config in create.
Yeah.
We could, first of all, we could have a warning to say that apply is deprecated eventually. Apply is deprecated, use actuate.
Right.
So that people realize they have this option. And then we can clean up the flags in places like create. The actuate, or like the new command, whatever name it has, can have different flags altogether. Like, there are a lot of flags in apply that only apply to client side and some to server side. So it's kind of a mess. So that's a good opportunity to look back and like clean up a lot of things in kubectl, I think, throughout. And I was mentioning this, I don't know if we care right now, but the kubectl diff right now is using the same flags as kubectl apply. So we would have to decide what we do with kubectl diff, or we could make a new command for diff or whatever. But
as a subcommand, like,
yeah,
as you mentioned,
we have to think about this holistically a little bit and see how the flags make sense between each command.
So obviously there's a lot of work to do, but we wanted to at least kick off this idea and get feedback before we, started doing too much work here. But it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, most of the feedback is pretty favorable. Is there anybody else who has any different feedback, or even the same feedback, or different concerns? We'd love to hear that now as well. Is that, Justin, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I don't have a concern per se, but did we talk about in-tree versus plugin? Like, what is the right execution strategy? It sounds like we aren't entirely clear on exactly what is in and what is out of this, right? So I felt like that was sort of maybe something we should talk about.
So on purpose, I described the proposal as a new command. In the notes, I mentioned that it could be a plugin first. I think that a new command would be significantly more, would give us significantly more adoption. I think that a plugin, we could actually, it's possible to create a plugin and release it with the kubectl binary so that we're releasing 2 binaries. That sounds like a lot of coordination effort with the release team. I can understand why, we would want to ensure that this worked in a plugin. I could see that, the advantages of that. I think that the disadvantage is that it may not be used. Like it may not actually be, if it were especially a plugin that somebody would have to individually download, then we're not going to move the ball forward, because anybody who knows how to download and install a plugin also probably knows how to use server-side apply with the flags. And we're trying to make this as easy as possible.
It's very rare if you have kubectl apply deprecation notice say, please use this plugin instead, I think.
Yeah, so the deprecation notice again would also be difficult, and disconnected. So what are your feelings, Justin? On command versus plugin?
Yeah, I totally share your evaluation. I think the one option that might be possible would be to do a plugin first with an intent to move it into a command. And whether that is just like more not worth the pain, but like I think if we, like, it actually wasn't too bad working in tree, as it were. So I feel like we can iterate in tree as long as we like put suitable guards on it, like alpha, whatever. Like
I was gonna ask that was gonna be my next question. What is the timeline for that?
So I hadn't thought of any timeline. I thought I would just like drop this bomb on the meeting and see what happened. And got some, got you and Justin involved slightly ahead of time. And so I don't know what the timeline is.
Because I'd be happy if we had, say, an alpha version in the next release, and we can play with that. And even the command doesn't have to be, I think for alpha commands, they need to be hidden somehow.
Right.
So I think we could totally have that as a alpha command. We decide what's going to be in there. We start playing with the flags and see what flags make sense and which don't. And then because it's alpha, we have the ability to change them anyway. So I would just go ahead. It's like, it's not a big change to create a new command and put server-side apply in there. It's like, it's a day's work, right? So we can totally make an alpha version for the next release if we wanted.
Yeah, I don't think that would be too difficult at all.
Yeah. And then from there, we can be like, okay, let's see if we can add more things and how can we be consistent with the flags and make something that is going to work for the long term.
Yeah, putting on my Katrina hat for a second, like obviously we'd need a KEP for this, which should be pretty straightforward.
I don't know who's going to be doing it here in this room. Looking at you, Sean, but yeah, I don't know if we have a lot of capacity.
Right.
So I'm happy if we have some help, to be honest. Talking to the people not in this room.
Okay, so I'm going to put in the notes that the feedback is generally favorable, and there's still a lot of questions, but that we could move forward with the effort. Is there anybody who does not think that we should move forward with this effort before I go on to the next item? Okay, so I will go on to the next issue, which is a notice of a particular problem with the new aggregated discovery. There's a particular set of versions of the client Go as well as the version of the API server, as well as whether or not there's a metric server in the cluster that can cause very bad things. We don't have to worry about this for kube control. Kube control has had this fixed for months in the latest versions of 126 kube control. But there are some clients. In fact, if you look at grep.app, you'll see that there are certain clients like Istio, kept KubeVirt. I actually contacted the KubeVirt team, and they've actually got a PR out to fix this right now. I just wanted to, as widely as possible, distribute this particular notice so that any other Kubernetes client that is importing client Go should move to the version that's mentioned in the issue, move to 126. 0.26.4 or higher. In fact, it's completely fixed in 0.27. So if you're in charge of or know of a particular Kubernetes client that is importing client Go, please update the imported version of 26. Does anybody have any questions about this issue? I think that Istio already has a PR out within the last day as well. We're trying to reach out to as many of these clients, teams as possible to get this fixed. Yes, Justin.
If we had a security vulnerability in client Go, presumably people would get like Dependabot type of things, right? I don't know exactly how that magic works. Could we do something similar here where we say like these versions are not security issues, but like, hey, you really want to update to 26.4 because in practice, once you get to Kube 127, you're going to have a bad time.
Okay, let me put this in the notes. Let me make this is an AI for me.
That's reasonable.
Look into Dependabot.
Or anyone that knows how Dependabot magic works.
I mean, if it's a security issue, shouldn't it be a CVE or whatnot?
It's not a security issue. It's a nil pointer exception.
Client side or server side?
It's client side.
Okay.
So
even in controllers and whatnot? I mean, isn't it like, can't
If
you get
there-
some kind of like denial of service or anything?
That's a good point. Let me look into it. So, yeah, I'm gonna. So actually, it wouldn't be that because the latest version of it has to be a 26 version of the client versus a 27 version of the server, and only some parts of 26. And so there's the controller and the API server are going to be the same version. It's actually not going to be an issue for controllers, I believe.
Sorry, not for built-in controllers, but for any like external controllers, it will be.
Right. So actually, some of the teams that I'm reaching out to are in charge of particular operators. So
yeah, if we can frame it as a security issue, then it's going to be a lot easier to get people to update. But don't we have a fix that Jordan is pushing anyway, which is going to be?
So the fix is a server-side fix that will not pass through the nil GVK. And so,
clients are not going to be in trouble.
So clients won't be in trouble once that particular fix that Jordan has out since yesterday. But that would require people updating their server, which is actually easier than updating a trillion clients.
Yeah. And to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that we magically discover a CVE. I was saying there must be some mechanism, and can we like somehow, like, is there any way to use that same mechanism for highly recommended but non-CVE type updates?
Good point. I'll take that as an AI to dig into that. Thanks. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, Jaswir. So
Yeah.
this was, let me share this. This was the issue that you were
Yeah,
interested?
I wanted to screen share something. Let me know if it. Oh, am I allowed to do that or?
I think I have to make you a co-host. Let me just make you a co-host. And I should have made some other people co-hosts as well. So go ahead and try now.
This was, yeah, okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
It's yeah, I can now.
Okay, well, wait, where is it? Oh, one moment. Yeah, so I've been working on this a bit, and it's about auto completion, that it takes long when you use step. And right now I have this plugin and I have this autocomplete thing. And yeah, what I wonder about is what it's like supposed to do. Like, I think if I do this and I press step, it's supposed to create another piece of text here. And I was just wondering what, yeah, so this thing, what it has in its code is pretty much this. So what is that supposed to do? Is it like supposed to add port forwards to the end of this, or I mean, yeah, is supposed to add port forwards to the end of this, or yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So there's an entire subject of completion. We initially had completion as bash scripts that were being sourced, and I believe now they're in Go as part of the binary kubectl binary, I believe. So there was one of our members who was kind of the expert in, who I shouldn't say was, but is the expert, Mark. Can someone remind me Mark's last name? Who was the completion expert?
Kuzam?
Yeah, that's it. There is,
I think he said something in the comment base of that issue I'm working on. So
okay. So if you're interested in working on the auto completion functionality, of course, he would be the one to work with, who's going to be the expert. Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, sorry, I just see you tagged me on this. My notifications are a storm. I don't have context right now to give you an answer either, but I will keep this tab open and take a look.
okay, thanks. How do I put this off? Okay.
Thank you for jumping into this issue.
Yes.
Ah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, we have one thing left before we can do other stuff or wrap up. We have the KubeCon video update due tomorrow. I was hoping Marley or Natasha would be here to volunteer to record with me, so I will pester them directly. And we have some source stuff that we looked at last time. We started gathering a list of updates to include. Anyone have any specific things they want to make sure are called out that we haven't talked about before? Context, this is, as a SIG, we get a 1-minute video update that gets played during the keynotes of KubeCon. So a great way to highlight our SIG, the work we're doing, and what we need help with. So if no one has thoughts, that's cool. Otherwise, feel free to DM me, and we're probably going to record this afternoon. So thank you.
Thanks for taking the lead on that, Eddie. So we'll wrap up the meeting unless there is any other issues that the SIG CLI would like to discuss. Last call for speaking out. If not, we will see you again in 2 weeks. I will take it upon myself for action items to flesh out the proposal on the actuate command. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.